Get this thing going on. Check one, check two. Can you guys hear me? Is that a yay or nay? Can you guys hear me? All right, all right. So tonight, what up? Thank you again, everybody, for joining in. We're about to get into our second part of our conversation about gangs in prison, right? I'm waiting for my boy Jose Arellano to jump on with me. So yeah, we're gonna get this thing going on. There was so much love, just so much engagement with the last week's conversation about strictly about like gangs and prison, right? But we talked about our experiences, and that's all we really truly could talk about is our experience, right? We weren't here to romanticize, we weren't here to glamorize. We were here to tell you strictly exactly like how this thing really went down. Wait up, give me a sec, guys. I'm adding Jose right now. Again, thank you guys, and we're gonna continue, right? Because like one of the things that really like, you there?
Hey, can you hear me?
There you are. There you are. Yeah, I can hear
Hey,
you. Yeah.
let
All
me
right.
see how
Cool.
if you could I can't hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can hear you.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, there you go. I can hear you.
Are you good? Are you good?
All right. I'm good, bro. I'm blessed.
All right, cool, cool, cool. No, I was just giving a little update, right? Like why we decided to do a round two.
Yeah.
Thanking everybody for being engaged and for all the mad love that they shot us. And I mean, you have like personal DMs that they hit you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
right,
I think like that's the reason why like we continue to do this. And even
right,
in this time right now, I kind of heard you talking a little bit. I was on there and while you were talking about our life experiences.
right,
And I think for the most part that's all any of us as human beings have. Like,
right,
and I just mean like any human being on this earth, not just you and me that have lived that life, but I think
right,
we reference something. I mean, because it's one thing to like I could tell you about something, an experience, right? But
right,
unless you've lived through it, then you can't really get the full gist of what it feels like. Like
right.
I can tell you like what it's like to grow up without a dad, right?
Mm, mm,
And you can what's that word called? Like you can relate to it, and you
right,
can you can kind of have a feeling on what that might be like, but you can't fully inhabit the experience unless you've lived it, right? And I think that goes for anything.
right,
There's certain things that I've never done before. I've never jumped out of a plane,
right.
like, and I don't know what that's like, and people can tell me, and they have, hey, it's amazing, it's this feeling of like
But
peace or
yeah,
whatever,
but you never felt that.
but I've never
So,
felt that feeling. You know
right,
what I'm
right,
saying?
right.
And
Yeah,
so we all have our own experiences in this life. And as we go through them, I think that it's important for us to identify them and then to be able to like share the gift that those experiences had on our life.
right, right. No, for sure, right? Because why we're telling you these stories, right, is not for to glamorize it, right? We're
Yeah,
telling you these stories so you could see the end result, right? And if you want me to
yeah,
give you the fast forward end result, I've been out of prison 12 years. My life is completely transformed into nothing but blessings, even in the current situation that we're living in, right?
yeah,
I'm a happy father, right? I'm a just and just a blessed husband, right? Like, and my kids will never have to suffer like I did, right?
yeah,
So we tell you these stories not to glamorize. We tell you these stories not to romanticize, right? We tell you that these stories, first of all, for people that want to approach the work, right? Why are we telling you these stories? A lot of the people that were messaging us, right, are working with people that are in systematic oppression, right? Generational trauma, people that are trying to understand these communities, right? Because people do not understand these communities, right? What's the point of releasing thousands upon thousands of men and women if these men and women that are being released from prisons are being released set to fail? You know what I'm saying? And we're
yeah,
trying to tell you that the main thing that you must do if you're trying to approach this work is therapy, right? The tapping into
the
the
healing.
trauma,
Yeah, tapping
the
into the
healing
trauma and the
component,
healing
whatever you
component.
want to call it, healing
Yeah,
component, working on the trauma, whatever it is, that is the number one thing that you did and I did.
And
And
that's what I would say. And going to your point also too, like just even hearing you, right? Another one of the major key things I want to say that your story does for me, and I'm gonna even be honest, like my story does for myself is it's hope in the flesh, homie.
right,
Like it's hope in the flesh. Like hearing your story, what you've been through, where you're at now. You know, you hear a lot of people about not looking back, and I'm not looking back so I can stay in the trauma, but I'm
right,
looking back so I can identify clearly like what led for me to live the life that I lived, right? But then
right,
also the hope in the transformation of the story, homie. Like
right,
that's hope in the flesh, and that's something why that's something that Homeboy Industries does on a daily basis. It
for
creates
sure.
hope in the flesh where you can see it. It's tangible. It's not just in a textbook. It's not just in a lecture. The shit is vivid. It's living. It walks amongst you. And when you share your story, like that's why it's so I honor it, and I'm so
Right,
blessed by it because it is hope. Like
right,
I'm going through some shit right now, and I was
mm,
telling the homie the other day. I go, look, I was on this Zoom, on a Zoom meeting, right? And
right,
one of the homies was straight reaching out. He was like, "Yeah, I've been to the pen, and I've done time and I've been poor, but this shit's starting to affect the way I think, right?"
right,
And I said, "I don't think life. I don't think just because we've been to the pen and we're sober or we're clean and we're not getting high doesn't mean that we're not going to go through no shit.
for sure,
I think life
for
is
sure.
still going to continue to take place. So it's not about what we go through, but it's about how we respond to what we go through.
Right,
And
right,
before we didn't have no clear way to respond, homie.
right,
We were just in it, and I'm sure you could relate to just like living in that cycle and not even understanding that there was a way out.
for
And
sure.
so, being able to look at it, identify it, and then to see a clear path out of it, for me is hope, homie. And
Right,
for me,
right,
even in the time we're in, and that's why I say it unifies all of us because as human beings, I think we're all looking for a way out, a way to peace, a way to love, a way to understanding ourselves. You know what I'm saying? And
right,
so
right,
it creates a clear path into that better understanding of like what's going on, what happened internally, but
right.
then also how do I move past my pain? You know what I'm saying?
That is the, and especially in this time right now, bro. Like, there was a person, right, that hit me up, like, why aren't you talking about the COVID, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and there's a couple reasons, right? I mean, and at the end of it, I could talk about whatever the hell I want, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's like this is the platform that I'm using it for, right? And I'm not knocking what's happening right now, right? But what I could say that relates is what's happening to people is that there is a traumatic experience happening right now, right? And if you don't know how to understand trauma, then it's going to be a lot harder on yourself. And I think what we're talking about is that it could actually help people with what's happening right now because
Yes.
we're talking about our trauma, right? And even though trauma might be a little bit different, trauma is trauma at the end of the day.
Yeah.
If it gets you to feel unsettled, if it makes you have fear in your heart, trauma is trauma. So maybe if you hear these stories of traumatic experience, you it might be able to help people in this current climate.
You might relate. You might relate when I say I had an anxiety attack in the childhood.
Right. Yeah.
You might have an anxiety attack at the
Going to the
grocery
grocery
store
store. Going to
and
the
have never
grocery
been
store.
able to say that to anybody. And
Right.
so, and just going back to that, because I kind of wanted to touch on a couple of things, right? I wanted to say a couple of things. Is one about the COVID is first and foremost, I'm not a doctor. Like
Yeah.
there's certain things
What
that
am
I
I
don't
gonna say?
understand fully about the COVID, and what has helped me, and I'm not saying that this can help anybody else, but for the most part, I turn the news off.
Hmm.
I try not to watch certain shit because
Right.
that even adds to the anxiety
They
or to the
feed you.
fear or to the panic, right?
Yeah.
And so but that's just the way I cope. And there's certain things that I do that maybe somebody that's watching might not be helpful for them to cope. But I kind of like shut things off and I kind of like I focus my attention on other things so that they're not highlighting the fear factor and all the stuff that possibly could happen. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Right.
I try
Right.
to stay
Right.
busy. I try to stay busy. I try to have a program in place, a structure. But those are the things that I can share because I feel like those are the things I'm an expert in. You know
Right.
what I mean? If I went to school and I studied the COVID and I put it under a microscope, then fuck it, I'll come on here with you, Rich, and we'll talk about all the molecules that are involved in the shit. But I don't
Hey,
have that
wait up, wait, you
information.
know what? And
Bro.
also, bro, someone told me like they had a problem with us laughing about our trauma. You know?
And when you
Hey,
told me that, low key, I'm
bro,
not even gonna lie. When you told me that, that shit low key bothered me.
for sure,
And
bro,
I'm gonna
because
say,
like, but like,
go ahead.
because this is my trauma. I don't own
Exactly.
everything, bro. But
This.
I'm gonna tell you one thing that I do own. I own my trauma. I own my experience, and I could treat my experience however I want, bro. And people that have really been in the thick of it, people that have really been in the shit, as we say, know that when the shit is going down, we laugh.
Yeah. I mean, what can you do besides laugh?
Laughter is medicine, bro. Someone said
Laughter
laughter
is
heals.
medicine.
Laughter is medicine,
Laughter is
baby.
medicine. And Father G says it all the time. You know what I'm saying? Like you see at Homeboys, we can laugh from our belly because it's okay. And
Right.
what laughter shows, laughter actually shows that there's healing taking place. And I learned that from
Straight
Father G,
up.
homie. Because if you
What
can't
am I
look
gonna
at
be here all? I'm gonna be here all shit faced with you the whole time. I'm just gonna be mad looking
yeah,
at you.
just angry at the
Cry?
world,
Am
pissed
I supposed
off,
to cry? Am I
you're
just supposed
supposed
to
to
cry
cry at
about it?
everything that I say. And see, and that's what they expect, or whoever said that expects. And I'm not down with that.
And it's not their fault. It's not their fault, bro. It's not their fault. You know what I'm
But
saying?
it
I'm
is
not
also
like,
a choice of opinion too. I think that it's an opinion, and that's what it is
right.
at the
It's
end of
your
the day.
opinion, and yeah. And
But
so
going back
like
to laughter, look at I want to
right.
I want to touch on that because I
Go
do
go go.
believe that okay, it's like say for instance, life was a film, right? What type
Yeah
of film would you want it to be? Like me, I like love comedies. Okay,
yeah.
I like films that are like there's love, but there's also a little bit of laughter,
Right
a
right right
little
right
bit of suspense, not too much suspense. I'm not down with all the Michael Myers shit, but I like those love comedies, homie.
right right
So I
right
want my life to be, yeah, a little bit deep. I mean, a little roller coaster of a ride, but I also want it to be funny and cheerful.
right
What kind of
right
movie do you want your life to be? If you
right.
want to sit and watch a boring ass documentary, we can be that. I can give you a boring ass documentary, but I don't feel like that's my life. I feel
You
like
need balance, baby. We need
you need
balance in our
balance.
life.
Yeah,
That's it. That's all we're
exactly.
saying.
That's
You
all we're
know?
saying. Don't put too much salt on the taco.
Ray, look it. So I'm gonna get straight back into it, bro. Like I
But
think we introed it, and like where we left off, where people were kind of blown because they were like, one of the people were like, my approach to the work, right? I thought I had the case study down packed, but
yeah,
when I heard your real experience, I was like, I don't understand nothing now. So I think where we left
yeah,
off was prison, bro. And like
yeah.
what we shared with you last one was deep, right? But it wasn't everything.
It
We
wasn't
like
every, but the last piece. So just to touch into where we were headed, the last piece that we shared was we started to kind of identify the dynamics and how being in the system was starting to affect us, right?
right,
Because there's
right,
a structure in place, okay?
right,
And
right,
that structure it's been in place longer than we've been there and we came there. So, and it was also it was kind of fear based, and so you get to prison and you pretty much like your opinion is out the window.
right,
It's you pretty much enter into a system, and
right,
I think that's another form of like systematic oppression where it's you go to chow, you have your certain car, you kick it on one side of the yard, you have the pull up bars you work out on, and then in between all that, there's also like this dark mess that occurs from time to time, and you see it. It arises out of nowhere, and it's gone just as fast as it came, and that's what makes it so dangerous, and that's what makes it so fearful. And
right,
so when you were kind of talking about when the yard gets put down, right,
right, right.
and what that made you feel like,
When I
and I even
seeing five people get stabbed at the same time, and on one hit, at the same time on the yard,
and what that
Ironwood.
made you feel like. So I'll
Right,
share
right,
one where after I shared, so I talked to you a little bit about when that dude ran to my door. And
right,
then my shawty told him, "Hey, homie, take that shit somewhere else." He got on. We were on lockdown. When we came
right,
off of lockdown, we're walking to chow, and I seen a masculine man, homie. I
right.
mean, this vato was
Was on swole.
if the word man in the dictionary, the definition had a picture of it,
Right,
just
right,
masculine, muscular. This fool was humongous, bro,
right. A
and
beast, just a
a beast
beast.
of a man, like
Right,
gladiator type shit. You go like,
right,
wow,
right,
where's this fool been working out at?
right,
And out of nowhere, homie, he just gets hit, maka, and then you just see his body. Like you get what I'm saying? Like I'm walking,
right,
and everybody just keeps walking. Everybody just keeps on walking, homie.
right, Right.
And as a 19-year-old kid, because now that I look back, I was a 19-year-old kid. You know, like
Right.
yeah, in my mind, I thought I was a man and I'm coming to prison. But I had that when I hit the yard and I looked and I seen everybody all tatted up and their heads and faces. Of course, I went like, damn, where am I? You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Right.
A thousand vatos on the yard, and you go to yard and you just see a sea of like, you know, of gang members.
Killers, of straight killers.
And then you see something like this and you go, damn. Like I remember how I felt. Like it was a shock,
Right.
right?
Right.
And
Right.
then
Right.
you know, you just keep walking. So then what you do is you stuff down your feelings. And
Right. Right.
you can't tell nobody like, hey homie, that shit scared the shit out of me.
Hell no, you can't say that.
You can't go back to your belly and go,
Right.
hey, you seen that shit that happened? That shit freaked me out. You can't say that
Right.
to nobody. So what you do is you stuff it down.
Right.
And then you're left with your thoughts. So you're kind of thinking about it later on. You're going, why did that happen to him?
Right.
What did he do? Who did he piss off? How come he didn't have enough time to fight back? You know what I mean? You
Right.
start running these scenarios in your head, right? And then you
So
go,
you're stuffing down a
a
traumatic
traumatic
experience.
experience, homie. You're
Right.
stuffing down a traumatic experience, right?
And I think where we're at that moment, right? Like we have been involved, we have been in traumatic events, right? We were first, the trauma happened upon us as innocent children. Then we crossed the threshold of being gang members, and we're doing the trauma upon others and ourselves, right? But when you see when you have to stuff down the fear, it's another layer of trauma.
That's
I
another
think
yeah,
it's
yeah.
another layer of a trauma, and like and in no way are you able
Because
to deal with it,
and another piece I think right now is what's coming up for me is you have to pretend it's okay.
bro. You have to laugh about it, right? Like you have to you
Yeah,
you
you have to pretend it's
I'm
all
gonna tell,
right.
bro.
But
There was this one time I told you this. I was in the gang module in 3500, bro, and a homie that I had did time with. We had, it's like, you know how you build friends in jail, right? Like
yeah,
you guys are on the journey
you come
together,
in the
right?
same age.
You come in the
You
same
guys know each
age, or
other.
yeah, you
You
just grew
guys
up with
cut it
each
up.
other.
You
Yeah,
guys
yeah.
click. You bond with each
That's your
other.
boy, right? So
Yeah.
anyhow, long story short, I'm in the module, right? And I get there, and then he gets there, and when I get there, they they tell me, whoever's running it tells me that he's gonna get hit, right? They tell me he's gonna get hit. And so I'm talking to him. I'm on the bottom tier, he's on the top tier. And I've been talking to him freely, bro. Like just cutting it up. We're in LA County Jail, right? In LA County Jail, like everybody could talk to everybody. You're on the tiers. So they tell me, hey, he's gonna get hit in 2 days. Just pretend everything's all right. Right? Bro, I
And you
so in
like this
my
dude. You
I
liked
he
him. He was
was
your
my
friend.
friend. He was my friend, right? So in my like, I was 19 years old, bro. Like, I had to pretend that everything was okay between
And
me
it
and this
wasn't okay.
dude,
And
and
it
I
wasn't
knew
okay.
that he was gonna get stabbed in 2 days,
Yeah.
bro. Like I thought about that right after. I was like, why did these fools tell me that, right? Like, why did he, like, you didn't have to tell me that. Like, you could have
Yeah.
just stabbed him. And sure enough, bro, 2 days later, when the yard went up there, everybody started laughing. They're like, oh man, the boys are gonna come back quick today, right? And sure enough, like in 15 minutes they hit him, and that was it, bro. But in my mind, like what, like the emotions and like the act, like they made me act, bro, because if I didn't partake, I would have been simply the one that got stabbed
Yeah.
also,
Hey,
right?
you ever think that everyone's acting, that we all forget that we're acting? Like, have you ever like I've been in there, right? And been in places where like I don't know, I've always kind of had emotional intelligence. Like
Yeah.
I've always felt like I could feel like, you know, and I can't sense what everybody's feeling, but I can feel like if I see this shit and I feel in my heart like this shit is wrong or something's not right
Yeah,
with
for
these
sure.
dynamics. But
For
I feel
sure.
like we're all acting so much that we all forget that we're acting.
For sure.
That
For sure.
we all forget the act, homie.
Yeah.
And then and eventually, I don't know for some where it happens at, but eventually it all starts to fall apart. And,
Right.
and especially when you continue to layer the trauma. So with shit like that, like continuing to layer the trauma, like it's this weird twisted game. You get what I'm saying? Of
Yeah.
like turning it on, turning it off, testing you. Because even what you're saying about the story is like, why would you tell me?
Why would you tell me that, bro?
To see if I was gonna turn on you, to see if I was gonna, whatever the case was, but
What? So
whatever.
what type of? Hey, what type of trauma is that?
So
What
it's
they
called
don't?
Jedi. It's called Jedi mind tricks, homie. Have you ever like? I've seen shit where it's like somebody will say something to see how far it'll go,
For
or
sure.
and you know,
It's
or
just a
somebody.
da.
It's this. I think because the old saying goes, I think we're all miserable. So I don't want to judge any one person or any one
Right.
struggle.
We're all miserable in
We're
that
all
setting.
miserable. Okay, we're all miserable. We're all in this setting, and misery loves company. You get what I'm
Mm,
saying? And so,
mm.
like, say for instance, and I'm sure you've seen this. Have you ever been busted and you're doing time and you have a girl out on the streets and
Right.
somebody will say a little something just to get you to
Just
think?
to just to
They'll
get
go
it.
like,
Like
hey,
who she
homie,
being with tonight? Who
yeah,
do you think
or like,
she's?
but it'll be a joke, but it'll be a
Right.
subtle dart. You get what I'm saying?
Right. Right.
So
Right.
those
Right.
are all Jedi mind tricks, homie, that we play on each other. We play
Mm,
these games on each other to fuck with each other's mind, and it's like honestly, it's like a psychological warfare, homie.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'll tell
For
you
sure.
why it's so traumatic, because it's happening on both ends. I'll tell you why. It's happening within the system, like the
For
deputies
sure.
or the COs are doing it, because they're the ones that are coming in too, and they're saying, "Hey, if I see somebody walking and I flash the light, that means we're gonna turn off the phones because of him."
Right.
So they're playing mind tricks too. Let's just say you were walking to the restroom and they happen to flash you. Now they're fucking with you, and they're messing with the whole dorm,
Right.
and
Right.
they're turning off the phones and they're playing these games, and it's all these like psychological like mind warfare, homie. Because in California we're left with our thoughts for too long, and what
Right.
we do is we start to try to build ourselves up in the character and empower that role, or we start to tear ourselves down. And you
Right.
start to see homies like have strokes or get addicted to drugs because it becomes too painful to endure.
Right.
You start to think about things like that. So I'll give you an example. So many things had happened that one of my homeboys had ended up on a yard that I was on, right? The psychological warfare was so like real that when he approached me through the gate, he goes, "Hey," he was so happy to see me. He's like, "Hey, what's up, homie? Man, it's been a long time." And I looked at him with a serious face and I said, "You better not fuck up right here, homie." And
Right.
it was like I just busted his bubble, because
Right. Everything was gone.
he was like, "Hey, what's up?" Like we knew each other
It's
from the
me. It's
streets.
me. It's
It's me,
me.
baby.
It's
It's
me.
me. And I was looking at him and I said, "Hey, homie, I'm telling you, like, even when he was trying to laugh and smile, I said, hey, homie, kick back with all that. Like,
Right.
it's not like that right here."
Yeah.
And he was like, I remember it hit him like a ton of bricks. He was like, "What do you mean? Like, I'm just happy to see you." And I
Right.
was like, "I'm telling you right now, homie, don't play around right here."
Right.
Because
And
in
that,
my
yeah.
mind, the fear, the psychological warfare was so vivid in my mind that I was thinking, like, if this fool messes up,
I'm gonna have to
then
whack them.
they're gonna ask me, you know what
They're
I mean?
gonna,
It's gonna
yeah,
be on
yeah, yeah,
me.
yeah,
And
yeah,
like,
yeah.
and to put myself through more of that, like, because that's also trauma for you to have to beat up on your own homie,
On your friend.
on your friend. You get what I'm saying? So
Right.
there's a lot of these like key factors that go into the trauma that kind of we
Right.
layer ourselves with, and these are one of many. And
Right.
there's so many that we can break down, but to fully understand them, it's like you really got to unpack them, homie.
Right.
Really got to go, what is that like? What did that really make me feel like? So one is I'm in fear of me stepping out of line in this structure that's in place, right? On
Right.
one end with the state, with the CO correctional facility, or with the deputy in the county jail, but then also on the other that's already in place, right?
Right.
And so, you're in fear on both ends. And then another piece of the trauma is if he steps out of line, then I'm going to have to, physically engage with him. And so it's all
Right.
these different layers, bro, of like, I don't know. It's just, it's
So
deep, bro.
so so I think we have a good essence of like how sick the trauma goes, right? And I think that's really what we're trying to lay for our audience and for the people that are trying to really just really understand the psyche of what happens to an innocent child that becomes a gang member, right? So where does it go? Just like where does it level off, bro? Like, what is the breaking point of that, right? And I think we've kind of introduced it a little bit, but
Yeah,
like, you get me? Like, I think for me, it was like when your mind settles off, right? When you stop acting, right? When you understand, like, fuck, like this is not really who I am, right?
yeah.
And I
That's
think
when, oh, that's when it really hits the fan, I think.
so, and that and you talk about it so beautiful too, bro, because you said some of the deepest times where you found God, right? Some of the most closest time that you touched God was when you were in isolation. And for me, bro, like, i I started being in isolation as a young child, but and I was also in the shoe and in the hole in prison. But like in those times, bro, it's just like, what the fuck happened to my life? Like, where
Yeah.
the fuck? And like, even though we see, like, obviously I didn't die, obviously I didn't commit suicide, but I have a vivid memory of when my next door neighbor, bro, I was in Lancaster State Prison, and I was in the hole, right? So we're on one pod. There's like 15 cells on the pod, and I hear my next door neighbor screaming, bro, like, why the hell did you do that? What the fuck was wrong with you, right? And so what happened is that they were taking a nap, and his Sally cuts his wrist with a sharpened spoon, and he writes a love letter in blood to his baby's mom, to his girlfriend, right? And he tries to kill himself, right? He didn't succeed, bro, but I think that this is like, either you could go that way or you could go the other way, right? But I think for me, that is when, like, this is the bottom of the barrel, right? And what the fuck has my life became?
Mine was my last shoe term, and my mom had just died, and I felt like I was trying to run from myself, and there was nowhere for me to run anymore.
Mm.
Like, I was at the end of my ropes. I was there, contemplated suicide. I don't say that to give that any type of power, but this is just
Right.
where I was at during that time. A very dark place. I was just broken spiritually, homie. Like, spiritually, I just felt like I felt like I was just a lost soul, and I felt like darkness was upon me, straight up. And I remember I would always get into whatever I got into so that I would end up in the hole, and
Mm.
I would end up alone. And every time I ended up alone, it was like that old saying, everywhere you go, there you are.
Mm.
I remember being in my last shoe term, and I looked in the little square mirror that was on the south wall. I looked at myself deeply into my eyes, and I said, who the fuck are you, homie?
Wow.
Who are you? And how did this happen to you?
Yeah.
Because it felt like my life was such a blur up until the point of being in that moment, and like really yearning for my mother's love, because all my life I wanted my mom. Like, I loved her so much. I love her, and
Right.
I always wanted just a great relationship with her, and we didn't have that because of our circumstances. And then she died while I was in prison, and my soul felt like it was broken. And then I started to say, like, I know this isn't you. Like, I know all these moments I look back on, and I remember going, I don't believe in this shit. Like, I don't feel it fully in my heart. Like, whatever it was, whether it was jumping somebody, or whether it was living the way I was living, or
Right.
not taking care of my responsibilities, it was all those things, right? That I felt they weren't who I was, but then I was also living a life that I thought I had to live.
Right.
So I was living in this false narrative for so many years that I got to a point where I was like, the jig is up, and I knew it. Like, I knew it in my heart. When I
It
looked in
was
the
it,
mirror,
it was done.
I knew I was done.
Mm.
And I still would try to pretend, because I didn't want to fall apart in there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I didn't want people to see me crumble. I had built this armor up, and the armor was starting to evaporate before my
Right.
eyes.
Right.
And that was one of the most scariest things I ever been through, because then I had to say, well, if this isn't you,
Who are
then
you?
then who are you?
Mm.
Then who really
Yeah.
are you?
Right.
And that
Right.
and with
Right.
that came an identity crisis.
Mm.
With that came so much fear and anxiety. But with that also, homie, all that darkness, all that fear, all that anxiety, also came freedom, homie.
Mm.
Also
Mm.
came liberation.
Right.
Also came the father that I am.
Right.
Also came the husband that I am.
Fair.
Also came the person that wants to help, as
Right.
best as I
Right.
can,
Right.
and be there for people. And that all came from those moments,
Right.
those
Right.
dark ass moments. And so I look
Of
back and
being
I go,
stripped, of being stripped of everything, bro.
fully
Being
stripped.
stripped. and truly looking at your spirit, your soul, your life, whatever you want to call it.
And it's a beautiful thing, you know. And I
Right.
wouldn't trade it. I wouldn't trade it for the world. People might think I'm crazy, and you might get someone that'll comment on here and say some shit, but I'm gonna say it. I feel like my mother in her death did more for me in her death than she was able to do in the life that she had. I
Wow.
felt like my mother died so that I would live, homie.
Right.
And that
Right.
might
Right.
sound crazy, but had that shit not happened, I would have never ended up on that shoe term looking at myself in that mirror, asking myself, who the fuck are you? I would have
Wow.
never found myself on that journey discovering who the fuck I am,
Yeah.
you know, and now honoring my mother,
Right.
honoring her in her life and all the things that she went through, all the things that she carried, and she
Yeah.
did the best she could with what she
That's
had,
it.
you
That's
know.
it. Yeah. Yeah.
And we're
Yeah.
here, and we
Yeah.
are blessed.
And you know what? That it's your it's your journey, bro, at the end of it, right? Like who cares what anybody, it doesn't even matter, right? Like I think that the end, all that matters is the end product and who is standing before you now, right? The
Yeah.
father that we are today, right? The men that we are today, like you look like I wouldn't want another life, bro. I
No,
wouldn't want another life. Like if it wasn't for who I am today, like I wouldn't be here, right? I wouldn't have my four beautiful children. You
that's
know,
right.
I wouldn't be just here in the flesh and in the power that I am, bro. Like I don't feel like and this and what we endured, not anybody could endure. You know what I'm saying? Like it took a spirit of resilience to endure what we endured, right? And we're not saying it to glamorize it. We're not saying it for any of that, but it's just like how brave you are, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like what like how much God had his grace upon you, bro, for you to
Yeah,
like come out of that. And check this out. We were talking about this today. Like, bro, how blessed am I that I'm not crazy?
yeah, yeah. I remember when you told me earlier about them saying that we laughed. I said, "Thanks be to God that you're not, you know, in a mental ward, homie.
Straight up. Straight up, bro.
That you're
Like
not ripping your hair out of your head."
right, that I'm not in a straitjacket, right? Like, I
Exactly.
mean, bro, everything what we endured was made for that, right? If we would have been there, they would have been like, "Oh, I get it. Yeah, that makes
It
sense,
makes sense.
right? That
Yeah.
makes sense. You know, everything that me and you had to endure, right?
But this
So,
makes sense, you know, and
yeah,
sharing and partaking in one another's stories and yeah, and laughing and smiling and crying, because all of it is life. Like
it's
I
all of
really
it's part
I
of it.
think
All of
that
it's
we
part of
embrace
it.
it all. Like you can't have death without life, and you can't have life without death.
Right,
So
right,
everything that happened in between, I feel like was all part of the. It was shaping us, you know, of course. But then also too, I also want to give you props because the power that you had in God's grace upon your life and embracing God's grace to say, I am going to make a change.
right,
And you know what? And I am going to feel liberated because this shit feels feed, man. Like I
right,
tell homies all the time, I go, look, I understand like what that life, you know, can potentially, whatever it could bring you, like your name and all that other shit.
right, right, right,
You
right,
know,
right,
and like the homie Gary always says is who's who and who's cool in the zoo, right?
right,
But
right,
this
right.
shit right here, homie, going
It's a
home
beautiful life.
and
Yeah,
having your children like run to you, I mean run to you, homie,
right,
and
right.
wrap their arms around you and
Mm,
scream, "Daddy!"
there's
Hey,
nothing that
homie,
could. There's
there's
nothing.
nothing, dog, nothing that can compare to that feeling.
Bro, I say that your children will give you more than nothing could compare to that, bro. Exactly what you said. Your
There's
children will give you
nothing.
there's nothing, bro. When they look
There's,
at you in the eyes and like you are they're your biggest
homie,
fan. You will never have a
I
big.
saw a video of you earlier, and you were doing like your pose, and then you were playing like you were doing the baseball with them.
I was about
I
to jump
said,
like a
I
ninja.
said, check it out. I said, look at Rich, he's a ninja. But I said, look, I said, priceless, homie.
That's
I
it.
said, priceless, homie.
I hurt myself. I hurt
Did you?
myself, but it was worth. Yeah, I hurt
Did
myself,
you hurt
bro.
your groin?
Bro, I hurt myself. Like, man, I'm getting too old for this, man. I
Hey,
can't be
bro.
doing this with
But
that.
it's like seeing that, like for me, is there ain't no riches on this earth.
No,
There's not no name on this earth. There's not no yard on this earth. There's not
that
no
will give you
pod.
that.
There's no module. You
Mm,
know, and I'm not saying this because I'm comparing, or I don't even like anybody's choice in life is their own choice. You
right.
know, and I feel like I've made my choice, and to be a father is my greatest role in life that I can ever have.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
I was only able to do that. And I always reference that conversation we had when you called me and I was in Dublin, and you called me and you said, "Hey, bro, like, I'm your bro, right?" And I said,
Yeah.
"Yeah." And you said, "You're my bro, right?" And I said, "Yeah." And you said, "You know what I realized is that we became sons first, because
Mm.
we couldn't have been brothers until we were first sons." So
And that
what
was
Father G was
Father
able to
Greg.
do,
Yeah. Yeah.
and to allow us to be sons, have allowed us to be brothers, have
That's
allowed us
it.
to be fathers,
That's it.
have allowed us to be everything else that we are, because we were
Right.
able to be sons first.
Right. Right. Right.
And
Right.
it's like there's nothing like it, homie.
No,
And so,
thank you, bro. Thank you. And for bringing it back to homeboys, right? We don't have like the end all be all, right? Like we
yeah,
don't know like how to change this, Nate. We don't have that. All we have is our experience, right? And all we have is the man that gave us
yeah,
that liberty to
yeah,
finally touch our true selves. And that's back to Father G and
yeah,
Homeboy Industries, right? So we bring this saying that like, yes, this remedy works, right?
yeah.
That identifying the trauma works. And I think that's all we could truly leave anybody with,
Sure. That's all we could.
right?
I'll kiss you right now and hug you, bro. If I could.
I love you,
I
bro.
love you, bro. All right,
All right.
and I'm grateful for this. I'm grateful for
Yeah.
this space that you create,
Yeah.
and it's definitely always an honor, always an
Yeah.
honor to partake in this space with you, bro.
And we continue, bro, huh?
Senior, bro. All
All
right,
right, man. Have a blessed
love you.
one. Bye.
All right.
Hey.